What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Andy Ruiz. You guys can remember I did a video about Andy Ruiz saying that he wants Anthony Joshua, that he would like the fight between Deontay Wilder. And you know something, like Deontay Wilder would say, speak it, believe it, receive it. Okay, fair enough. He is now one of the candidates, along with Michael Hunter, for a potential Anthony Joshua fight June 1st, Madison Square Garden. And what do I say about this particular fight? I think that Andy Ruiz is a good fighter. He's a good young fighter. You know, I feel that he's fast. Him and Kalnaki, those guys they look very deceiving. You know, the way they look, the way their body frame and shape is, they look like garbage men. But in fact, if you've seen them punch and you've seen how they move, that is an anomaly. You know what I mean? Because Andy Ruiz puts punches together along with Kalnaki. In fact, these guys are younger fighters, okay? And their build has you thinking that they move a certain way, and it's very deceiving how quick they are based on how they look. That's why looks can be very deceiving. And I like the combinations he puts together. He has a great amateur pedigree. He's an humble guy too. When he did call out Anthony Joshua, you know how I feel about humble fighters and humble people all together across the board. You know, only so many people can get away with being cocky, and I would like it. You know what I mean? Ali, Roy Jones, to name a few. But if you're humble in this business, you know something that is apparent. Okay? You know that any day, any time in that ring, you can get knocked out or possibly killed. That's why humbleness is very important. Backstory. But anyway, back to Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz is like a guy that I feel that he could give Anthony Joshua a competitive fight. You know, based on his last big fight with Parker, a lot of people think he was robbed against Parker because that wasn't a convincing win by Parker. You know what I mean? It really wasn't. I remember seeing that fight, and I seen the better combinations were landed by Ruiz, but he was hesitant in that fight, and he didn't throw enough of those combinations based on where he was at. You know what I'm saying? Because Parker, you know, this fight wasn't a American fight. You know. So Andy Ruiz didn't have a home team advantage. So it was one of those things where it could have went either way. But again, him and Michael Hunter, they share one losses to the higher echelon of fighters. Okay. But I would like to see that fight. A lot of people think he's better than Michael Hunter, a better candidate. But I would have to agree, based on his heavyweight experience. Michael Hunter was beaten and outpointed by Usyk. Okay, Usyk was a cruiserweight, so Michael Hunter has not been a heavyweight his whole career. Unlike Andy Ruiz, Andy Ruiz has been that guy that's been there. Okay, so at least he is in the same weight class. So and Michael Hunter, 6'2" or whatnot, but. Let's look at Andy Ruiz for a second. Let's see what he brings to the table. Well, he beat Alexander Dimitrenko last weekend, and that was a pretty impressive win. And since then, he hasn't really been in there with any names that are really familiar to me at this point, besides Joseph Parker. And of course, Joseph Parker, even if he loses, he gives people a good fight. Look at his fight between him and Dillian White. Dillian White beat him, but he had Dillian White almost out on his feet in the last round. So you know, Andy Ruiz has not been knocked down either. So that's something else you got to throw into that pot. Okay, he hasn't been knocked down, and he might can withstand those punches. However, to be fair, guys, he hasn't been punched by someone like Anthony Joshua. So that's very interesting to see if he can take those punches. You know, we thought the same thing about Miller, but of course Miller is out. Miller who? So yeah, Andy Ruiz, you know, he looks like a good young prospect, candidate rather. The only downside that I have against Andy Ruiz would be that he's a young fighter. You know, he's him, Michael Hunter, you know, even Andy Kalnaki. These guys are young fighters. Now, they're that lower tier of fighters that just started to get up into the rankings. You know, like Kalnaki's like 8 by the WBC, you know, and Andy Ruiz, you know, he's coming up in the ranks. But these are younger fighters. So I guess, you know, it's fair to sink or swim at this point and to see what they can do in their career. But definitely it's a life-changing opportunity. So again, I take my hat off to anyone that wants to jump in there short notice. And it's really not that short a notice, guys. This shit's not like it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks. This is 6 weeks notice. Training camps, protocol, normally are 6 weeks. Unless you just, you know, you're doing, you know, I never had, the longest training camp I've seen was Danny Jacobs against Golovkin. That shit was like, I think, 12 weeks or something like that. That's way too long for me. Most training camps are 6 weeks, 5 weeks, and they're ready to go. Now, I know you have to promote in between that, so that takes a lot of time up, you know, but it's not really that long of time, man. That short of time. 6 weeks is, you know, a decent amount of time to get you ready for a fight, okay? A lot of people have fought in less time than that. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, okay? So anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Andy Ruiz being the next possible candidate for Anthony Joshua. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.